Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhuvya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear Prabhujis, we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, and we are going to read the 62nd verse. So another very beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shri Krishna says to Arjunji, ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो अभिजायते. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो अभिजायते. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो अभिजायते. So very beautiful verse. Dhyayatah, while contemplating vishayan, sense objects, pumshaha, of the person, sangaha, attachment, teshu, in the sense objects, upajayate, develops, sangat, attachment, sanjayate, develops, kamaha, desire, kamat, from desire, krodha, anger, abhijayate, becomes manifest. So while contemplating the objects of senses, dhyayato vishayan pumshaha, while contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, sangas teshu pajayate, and from such attachment lust develops, sangat sanjayate kamaha, and from lust anger arises, kamat krodho abhijayate. So while contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. So in the purport, Swami Srila Prabhupada explains, one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagements in the service of materialism. So in the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods and the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was in deep meditation but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. So as illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. So very beautiful verse Lord Shri Krishna is explaining to Arjunji and to all of us how we developed attachment for sense objects, how a person in this material world he develops attachment for sense objects, which further leads to development of material desires and development of manifestation of anger in the mind. So the mind, the work of mind is thinking, and by thinking feelings are generated, thinking, feeling and willing, and by feelings one start willing. So Lord Shri Krishna is explaining to Arjunji and all of us, dhyayato. When we contemplate dhyayato vishayan, on sense objects, dhyayato vishayan pumshaha, when a person contemplates on sense objects, vishayan pumshaha, sangas te supajayate, sangas attachment, teshu towards them, towards those sense objects, teshu upajayate, manifest. So when one contemplates on sense objects, one develops attachment for them. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. And because of that attachment, sanjayate, again it leads to another manifestation of lust. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Kamaha means desire. And material desire is known as lust, while spiritual desires to satisfy the Supreme Lord is known as love, true love. So, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, material desires are born. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Kamat Krodho Abhijayate. And when those desires, unfulfilled desires in the mind, they are accumulated, desires for sense enjoyment, desire for various gratification of the senses and the mind, when such unfulfilled desires are there in the mind, it leads to development of anger in the mind. So dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho abhijayate. While contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. From lust anger arises kamat krodho abhijayate. And in the next series of verses, Lord Shri Krishna will explain why a person is not peaceful in this material world, how he falls down again in the material pool. So Swami Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport, unless one is Krishna conscious and is not fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord, he is sure. Because unless one is engaged in the service of the loving service of the Supreme Lord, not only service, one should do service, devotional service to the Supreme Lord with love, because that is eternal constitutional position of every living entity. The living entity, every living entity in this material world, they are in loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. And they all were engaged in serving the Supreme Lord with love and affection in the spiritual world. But because of their material desires, they have fallen to this material world. So unless one is Krishna conscious and one is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord, one is sure to engage into material sense gratification, because the mind, if it is not engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, if mind is not thinking for the service of the loving service of the Supreme Lord, then mind will surely think of material sense objects. So senses require real engagement. Swami Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport. With senses, they require real engagement. The mind also require real engagement. And if they are not engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, loving devotional service of the Supreme Lord, then they will seek material enjoyment, material rasa. And Swami Srila Prabhupada explained that everybody in this universe, however powerful he may be, and one may try to control the senses by repression or some yogic process or some meditation, one will be failure. One will ultimately fail in controlling the senses unless one become Krishna conscious. And Swami Srila Prabhupada took the example of Haridas Thakura from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela. So Haridas Thakura was allured by Maya Devi herself Maya Devi herself took up the form of a very beautiful woman, and he approached Haridas Thakur in the dead of night, and she proposed. She proposed Haridas Thakur for sense enjoyment, but Haridas Thakur was not allured because he was actively engaged in chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Lord, hearing the holy name of the Supreme Lord, which are none other than the Supreme Lord Himself. Lord has invested all His potency in the holy name. Bahudha Nij Sarva Shakti, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained. Lord Shri Krishna has invested all His potency, and His holy name is non different from the Supreme Lord, His holy name, His pastimes. And Lord Haridas Thakura was engaged almost 24 hours a day in chanting the holy names of the Supreme Lord. 20 to 22 hours. Only 1.5 hours they were, all the Goswamis and Haridas Thakura, they used to sleep, take rest and do other activities. The rest of the time they were always engaged in glorifying the holy name of the Supreme Lord, in distributing the holy name of the Supreme Lord to others. So Haridas Thakura was saved because Swami Srila Prabhupada gives the example. And of course Swami Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that nobody, even demigods and everyone in this material world, they are subjected to sense gratification. Of course, Swami Srila Prabhupada has always explained that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they are directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Especially Lord Shiva, Lord Shri Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. And Swami Srila Prabhupada has explained in his various lectures and conversation that Lord Shiva is a Dhira. He didn't become agitated immediately because of Parvati Devi, but yes, Swami Srila Prabhupada, because for the preaching purpose, Swami Srila Prabhupada is also situated on the Uttama platform, but for preaching purpose they have to, for the benefit of the other living entities, conditioned living entities, for explanation, they have to sometimes take examples like that. So Lord Shiva, because he is Lord Shri Krishna only, Swami Srila Prabhupada only has explained. And he has taken the charge of this material world, but there is a difference. And Swami Srila Prabhupada explains the difference as milk and the curd, milk and the yogurt. So Lord Shiva is Lord Shri Krishna who has taken, and Durga Devi or Parvati, Mother Parvati is the shadow of Radharani. Because this material world is a shadow, is a dream of Lord Vishnu. So in special cases, when there was a requirement, when the demigods were harassed by some demon, so Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Shiva, on request of all the demigods and Parvati Devi, but he is always engaged in meditation on the Supreme Lord and his pastimes. So he had to produce a son, Kartike, by the name Kartike, to kill one demon. That pastime is there in various Puranas. So, but Swami Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain all of us that everyone in this material world, whoever he may be, however powerful he may be, unless one is engaged, the point is, unless one is engaged, even the demigods, though they are subordinates of the Supreme Lord, but they are also harassed by the demons. They're always, and they want to be victorious, and demons want to be victorious. So unless one is fully engaged, and one who is fully engaged in the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Lord, he do not take birth again in this material world. He gets liberation, because the Supreme Lord, he is known as Mukunda, one who gives liberation to every living entity. So one who engages in his transcendental devotional service, he gets liberation, he do not take. And for the purpose of preaching, Swami Srila Prabhupada is taking all these examples for the benefit of entire humanity. Being commander in chief of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this age, in this age of Kali. So from the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, he took the example of Haridas Thakura, who was always engaged, and Swami Srila Prabhupada also in the previous purports, he explained about Yamunacharya. So Yamunacharya ji was also an emperor, but when he engaged in the service of Lord Shri Krishna, he explained Yadavadhi Mamacheta Krishna Padara Vindayo Navanamara Dhamni Rantumasit Tadavadhi Batanari Sange Smaryamane Bhavati Mukhavikar Shushtu Nishnivanam Cha. So in the previous purports we saw Yamunacharya ji, he was getting new rasa, new mellows, transcendental mellows, and those mellows were not material mellows. The material sense gratification, the material enjoyment which one derives from material sense gratification is very, very less as compared to the transcendental enjoyment which one gets on account of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So transcendental mellows, they are much, much higher. And when one experiences higher taste, Swami Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport, when one experiences higher taste, the lower taste become very, very, so to say, unpalatable. One is not interested. And Yamunacharya ji, a great devotee, he is saying, Tadavadhi nari sange smaryamane bhavati mukhavikar. His mouth, mukhavikaraha, his mouth curls in distaste. So the material enjoyment is actually very, very low. But we are addicted to material enjoyment, we are addicted to material sense gratification because we have forgotten our relationship with the Supreme Lord. Because we are not engaged transcendentally, because we are not engaged spiritually in our eternal occupation of loving the Supreme Lord and serving Him with love and affection in devotional service, in various devotional services, Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. Up to the extent of Atma Nivedanam, one fully offers himself completely to the Supreme Lord, and one gets more enjoyment in offering himself completely to the Supreme Lord. So because we are not tasting those mellows in this material world, and we are addicted to sense gratification, to material enjoyment from time immemorial, it cannot be traced. When a living entity, when we all fell down to this material world, that cannot be traced back. Bahunam janmanam ante, after many birth, one gets an opportunity to understand the Supreme Lord. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan, one gets an opportunity, one gets knowledge, one gets divine knowledge of Krishna consciousness, one gets an opportunity. And by the grace of Vaishnavas, like Swami Srila Prabhupada, he was very, very happy in Vrindavan. He was an Uttamadhikari, he was very, very happy. But for the preaching purpose, he went out, he took so much trouble, he wrote all these books, he gave thousands of lectures. He took all hardships, Swami Srila Prabhupada took all hardships, and a devotee, if he want to preach, if he want to benefit others, then he is blessed by even everybody in this material world. Even the demigods, they bless him. So it is a special blessing to Swami Srila Prabhupada by Lord Shiva that he is able to understand, and he is explaining that even the other demigods in the spiritual, of course Lord Shiva is Param Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, but for the service of the Supreme Lord, because he has accepted this material world to be the master of this material world, and he is none other than Krishna himself. So for saving, if some of the son, everybody is his son, demons and demigods, everybody belong to the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Krishna. He is Mam Bhut Maheshwaraha. He is the master of every living entity, Lord Shri Krishna. And because Lord Shiva is a transformation of Lord Shri Krishna, he is also master of every living entity. And he has taken charge of this material world also to save some good sons, demigods, from a miscreant son who has taken the form of a demon and is causing trouble. So he has to agree to their proposal and produce a son for killing that demon. So, but Swami Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain, and he is blessed. Swami Srila Prabhupada is also blessed by all the demigods, and he did wonderful service to the Supreme Lord on this globe, and that service is immortal. That service itself, and Swami has that service to the Supreme Lord, his love, Swami Srila Prabhupada's love to the Supreme Lord for Lord Shri Krishna has actually made him immortal. And Swami Srila Prabhupada said also, I will never die, I will always live through my teachings, I will always live through my books, and you will utilize. And we are getting an opportunity to utilize the teachings of Swami Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, a Vaishnava Acharya in the line of disciplic succession, Brahma Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya. So we are also blessed in that way, and we are getting an opportunity to understand the various teachings of Lord Shri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, and various pastimes, Krishna Katha of the Supreme Lord in this material world, in this mortal world, mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and his special Leela in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Prabhupada's work and Prabhupada's contribution to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission is actually very, very glorious. It cannot be compared, and nobody in this world, truly speaking, any man in this world, he do not have that fortune which Swami Srila Prabhupada has. So Lord Shri Krishna, he is explaining Dhyayato Vishayana Pumsaha. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desire while contemplating the objects of senses. The senses require real engagement, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in service of materialism. So, in the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to say nothing of the other demigods in the heavenly planets, subjected to influence of the sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence, Swami Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, to get out of the puzzle of material existence. So one is completely puzzled. One is completely puzzled in this material world, and one go on committing fruitive activities, sakam karmaha, and one gets more and more implicated because of the reactions of those fruitive activities in this material world. One has to accept bodies again and again and suffer the threefold miseries. Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmic miseries, life after life. And then there are very, very, very great miseries like Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. So one is completely puzzled and one is implicated. Not only puzzled when one acts with fruitive mentality, when one acts for sense gratification, neglecting the loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then one becomes implicated in this material world. So only way to benefit oneself is to engage in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Supreme Lord, which starts with Shravanam Kirtanam, which starts with hearing and chanting the holy name and the glories and the pastimes and the teachings, understanding and applying them in life. So Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was in deep meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakura was a young devotee of Lord, he was similarly allured by incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas Thakura easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of Lord, shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. So that is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be, in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. So, a slight thought of sense gratification can lead to fall down of any yogi unless one is completely Krishna conscious. But when one is Krishna conscious, there comes the example of Saubri Muni and other great yogis, even Vishwamitra Muni, such a powerful yogi. So, a slightest desire of sense gratification can lead to one's fall down unless one become completely Krishna conscious. So that is the only solution if one want to come out of the material puzzle, from this existence, material existence. That is the only solution to become 100% Krishna conscious. Swami Srila Prabhupada is concluding in the purport. And Lord Shri Krishna, he explained so wonderfully that the senses, they want real engagement. The mind, the activity of the mind is to think, and if one is not thinking for the loving devotional service of the Supreme Lord, then one will surely think of sense objects. And by thinking on contemplating on sense objects, one will develop desire for sense gratification for those sense objects. Sangasteshu upajayate, sangat sanjayate kamaha, one will develop desires, and if those desires are unfulfilled, it will lead to development of anger. And Lord Shri Krishna will further explain in the forthcoming verse. The anger will lead to delusion, and delusion will lead to bewilderment of memory. And this, when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material world. So how one attains a state of bewilderment and all those things, Lord Shri Krishna will explain in the forthcoming verses. But this was also another very beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita. And Lord Shri Krishna explained so wonderfully how one develops attachment for sense objects, which lead to desires, development of material desires, and which leads to development of anger in the mind. So in our next session we will try to understand the next verse of Lord Shri Krishna of Bhagavad Gita. Till then I would like to stop this session here. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhans Parivrajacharya Shrotra Shat Shri Srimati's Divine Grace. His Divine Grace Krishna Kripa Murti Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. All glories to His Divine Grace Krishna Kripa Murti Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Lord Chaitanya. All glories to Lord Shri Krishna. All glories to Bhagavad Gita. All glories to Lord Chaitanya. All glories to Holy Name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.